Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video on religious trauma. My name is Angel DeSantis. If this is your first video with me, welcome. My name is Angel. I grew up in a cult called the Children of God, and I make these videos on religious trauma. I also will link some stuff below for you if you want to dive in a little bit further for the process of healing. But with this video, I want to address some questions that I've gotten asking me like how I became this person and if I ever have a hard day, because I seem fairly positive and excited about life. And for people who are maybe earlier on in the healing journey, it can feel like you never have a good day. And so I got those questions and I just want to address that and talk about, I'm not going to talk too much about all my hard days because there are a lot, but I want to talk about why I'm able to keep sort of a positive mindset now, which is something that I absolutely did not have before. Because coming out of the Christian mindset, or sorry, not the Christian mindset, religiously oppressive mindset, a religiously traumatic environment, coming out of something like that, they teach you that the world is bad. And so when you're in the world, it's really actually very difficult to have a positive mindset because you're in a negative situation in a macro negative. So the entire world is bad and God hates you. So how are you supposed to have a good day? How are you supposed to have a positive mindset? You feel like God is like waiting around the corner to attack you at every point, because now he needs to punish you in order for you to return back to the fold. So Satan is against you and God is against you and the entire world is against you and everyone outside of the cult or everyone outside of your church is bad. So it sets you up for just this like macro negative experience, and it can really feel like it's impossible to have a good day because that's the setup. That is kind of the scaffolding of your brain when you leave something like that. And again, it's an abusive setup, and it's set up so that you will end up depressed, or you end up in this really negative place. So you feel like you have to return to God because that was the only thing that kept you feeling, quote, normal. And really, it's not that you felt normal. It's just you know how to function within this oppressive thing that set up your brain to not be able to function outside of that. So when I first started this channel, I knew that I wanted to start this channel because I knew that I wanted my experience, my life experience, to be useful for something. And I thought, well, let me just talk about my journey, and hopefully there's like one or two people who will resonate with it and feel less alone. So that was my goal. So I had this big idea of like, let me announce that I'm starting this channel. Like I'll put it on, for my like 3 friends on Facebook and see how it goes. And so I wrote a script out on the computer because I was too nervous to just sit down and talk. And now I can sit down and talk with a subject in mind. But this was like 2 years ago. So I sat down, I wrote out a little script. It was meant to be 1 minute. And I turned the camera on. This was like peak pandemic. So I had all the time in the world. So I was like, all right, let me write out a 1-minute script. And then I practiced it, set up the camera, and then went to shoot this 1-minute video. It was just like, hey, I'm starting this channel. If you've been through this too, meet me there. Hopefully it'll help. Something super simple like that. And it took me hours. I tried for 5 hours to shoot a 1-minute video. It took me all day. I ran out of natural light. I was in a different apartment at the time. But I had started shooting at like 11. And by like 4:30, I was losing the light. And I couldn't get out a 1-minute video. 1 minute. 5 hours later. So I turned everything off, and then I just cried for like 3 hours afterwards, because everything comes flooding in of like, who do you think you are? Everyone already hates you. Do you really want to put yourself on a stage for more people to hate you? All of those thoughts. And like the reason you can't get this out is because you're not meant to be doing this, because this and that, and all those places that your mind is set up to take you, all those negative places, I started to feel that pull. But the difference now, especially in how I was able to talk myself down from going into those negative thoughts, and I think a really major difference in being able to see things positively now, is that even as I was feeling those pulls towards those negative thoughts, I took a breath and I reminded myself, listen, you get to try again. Because the main difference between being in an oppressive religious environment and not being in an oppressive religious environment is the ability to try, or in my case, try again. But what I didn't have when I was in the cult was the ability to try anything. Couldn't try to be creative, couldn't try to listen to system music, couldn't try to like be, quote, foolish, couldn't try anything that wasn't sanctioned. And what I have now is the ability to try. I am in charge of my own life. I'm responsible for all my decisions. I get to try again. And I always get to try again. So in that moment where I'm like crying and wondering like why I can't do this and I feel incapable and my thoughts start pulling me in a negative direction, first of all, I tell those thoughts like, thank you, but remember, we don't need these thoughts. Like, yes, I know that these are places in my brain that used to get a lot of use, but now we don't go there. And remember, we get to try again tomorrow, because it's not a one and done situation. If you're no longer in this oppressive religious environment, it's not a one-off. You don't get just one shot at a job that you want. You don't get just one shot to write a book. You don't get just one shot to do anything. You have the ability now to try again. And that it was something for me that was really comforting, because I thought like, yeah, today was trash. And like, I don't know why I can't get this out. I don't know why it's stuck inside of me. And there's clearly something there that is refusing to let me like say these things and doesn't want me to show myself on a larger stage. But what I have now is the ability to sit with myself, ask myself like, girl, what was that? What is wrong? What are you still trying to protect? And then later on, when I'm feeling up to the task, I get to try again. And so even when I have hard days, I remember that like, okay, today's a hard day, but I get to try again. And that for me is really, really comforting. And that for me has started to shift my gaze from a sort of negative mindset of like, oh, I knew it, I'm a failure, I knew it. Of course, this didn't go well for me. But if you can see that now that you are where you are, you will always have the opportunity to try again. It's not a one-off. It's not that you get this one shot to do this thing. And if you miss it, you never get to try it again. You always get to try it again. Persistence works. It really does. You have the opportunity in your life to continue to try. You're in an environment that allows you to do that. So that's really the main difference between being in an oppressive society and a non-oppressive society, is that in one instance, you get the opportunity to keep trying. And when you have the opportunity to keep trying, that is going to continually move you forward. If you don't, basically, when you stop trying, that's where you stop. But if you're always willing to keep trying, then you will continue to move yourself forward incrementally. And for me, I did try to reshoot that 1-minute video. It did work. And by the time it did work, I didn't need it. But I still had that moment of, I had the inner turmoil. I had the inner dialogue come up. I had everything try and rush at me all at once for having the audacity to try and be seen. I'm not supposed to try and be seen. That's not my conditioning. I was built to be really small. I was built to cower. And I was trying to undo that. And that's why it was such an aggressive response to trying to film a 1-minute video. But I was willing to try again. And so I was able to get through the mental blockages because I knew that they were there. I knew I had to sit with them and have a whole conversation with my inner dialogue before trying again. But once I was able to sit there and acknowledge and work through and see what was holding me back, once I worked through that, which took about a week or maybe a little bit more, but once I was able to do that, I knew that I would get the opportunity to try again. And the reason that I am this person now, or quote positive now, is because I know that I have the ability to try again. And that for me means that as long as I have the courage to try, then I'm going to keep getting my trajectory upwards. Because you can fall, but just fall forward. And every time you're willing to try, every time you build up the courage to try something, even if you fail at it, you fail forward. So that's my video this week is, yes, there are hard days, absolutely, but they get easier because I know that I'm no longer in the environment I was in, and I get to try again. Even if I have a hard day today, I get to try again tomorrow. And that is not something that is a burden now. That is something that is inspiring. So that's something for you to play with. Think about if you feel like that's true. Do you feel like it's a true statement that you get to try again, or that you get to try? And did you get to try when you were back in this oppressive environment? And likely not. But now that you are in this space where you get to try, what do you want to try? And if you keep trying at something, your only option is to get better at it. If you try something 10 times, you're going to be better the 10th time than you were the first. If you try something 1,500 times, you will be exponentially better at the 1,500th time as opposed to the first. If you are willing to keep trying something, your only option is to get better. So what are you willing to try? And you have the opportunity to do so. So that's my video this week. If you're having a hard day, I hope that it helps to know that you can try again tomorrow. And as always, thank you guys for being here. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you next week.